Hi, this will be a short series of videos on animating things with UIKit. Here I am in Xcode. I'm going to make a brand new project with Create New Xcode Project here. And I'll choose Single View Application as my starting project. And then I'll give my project a name. I'll call it Animate Stuff. How about that, right? And then I'll save this into a folder where I'm working. Maybe I'll put it over here. There we go. Okay. So there's several ways to animate things in UIKit. UIKit provides actually a whole slew of different ways to animate things. One of the easiest ways to animate things is UIView.animate. And it provides a lot of options. It doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of things that you'll want to do. So I think that this should be the first tool you choose when you try and animate stuff. One, it's easy. It's kind of recommended as the go-to tool by Apple, and you can do a lot with it. So let's get started. I'm going to make an object here in my view controller. So I'm going to go to the view controller here. Maybe I'll make the text a little bit bigger there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a view with code. And we can animate things with, that were created in Storyboard also. But for this example, what I'll do is I'll just make this in code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new object called box. And I'll make it a new UIView instance. And what I want to do is size the box to, some particular size, right? So what I'll do is I'll choose, UIView init with frame. So now I'll have to set the frame here. Why don't we make this view, why don't we make it a square? Why don't we say let rectangle equal CG rect, and we'll choose, X, Y, width, and height. And we'll set the X to 0, the Y to 0, the width to 100, and the height to 100. And then we'll put our rectangle here. And now that we've created a box of 100 by 100 in the upper left corner, right, that would be the 0, 0. What we'll do is we'll add this as a subview to our current view. So we'll say view.add subview box. Okay, so that's pretty good. We still won't see the box unless we give it some kind of color or something, some content, right? So what we'll do is we'll say box.background color equals UI color. Let's make it orange there. Okay, so we'll test this. I'm going to switch this to iPhone 6, and then we'll give it a test. Pardon me. Oh, and there's our orange box. So let's imagine we want to animate our box, right? So let's just do a couple simple things, right? So right now I'm just in view did load, right? So we can trigger these animations with a button. We can trigger them on other events. For right now, the animation will be triggered when we load the scene or load this view controller. So how do we work with UIView.animate, right? So what we'll do is we'll type in UIView.animate, and there's a few options here. There's animate with duration and animations. There's animate with duration, and it doesn't say it here, but it says options. Or no, this one's with completion, and then there's the options, and then there's animate keyframes, animate time interval using spring, I think is what that one is, right? And we'll cover some of these later, but let's use this first one. It's very simple, right? Animate with duration and animations. So this option comes with a couple parameters, 2 parameters, right? We've got animate with duration. So this is the time that it takes to make the changes that we're going to specify. So this is how long the animation will take. Let's make this a 2-second animation. So the number here is in seconds, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll go to the animation option, and this is a block. So it's a function that takes no parameters and returns nothing. And if we hit return here, you can see it does the trailing block syntax. And essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to set some properties on an object here, and UIView animate is going to animate those properties over the course of 2 seconds. Okay, so let's do it as an example. Let's imagine we wanted our box to move to the center of the screen. Okay, so we can animate a few properties with UIView.animate. So all the basic properties we can animate here. There's a lot you can do with this. There's a few properties you can't animate, but in our case here, we want to move the box to the center of the screen, and we can do that a couple of ways. We could do it by setting the frame, and we could do it by setting the center. Okay, so I'm going to choose the center because that'll be easiest to center the box in the center of the screen. So what we'll do is we'll say box dot center equals, and then I need the center is a CG point. Let me do this, right? You can see it's a CG point there, right? So I'm just holding the option key there and clicking to get the information, right? And what we can do is we can move it to the center of our view, right? So I'll say view.center, right? Now, the code here is executed inside a block, so we're going to have a problem because view belongs to the class here, and when we execute the code in the block, we're really passing this function on to another another object to execute. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to put self in front here. Now box I declared inside the function, so the block here is a closure and it encloses the values that are in its scope. So this variable declared in this scope comes along with this closure, right? If we had declared box outside of our class here, we would need to put self in front of box also, right? So let's give it a try and see what happens, right? Okay, there we go. So the box just moves to the center of the screen. What else can we do? Let's do some other animation. I like this, but maybe I think I'd be cooler instead of starting from the upper left corner. I want the box to start from the bottom of the screen and slide up into view. And maybe I want it actually off the bottom edge of the screen so it's not visible at first, right? So why don't we set its starting position, right? We could do that when we set the rectangle here, but we can also do that with the center. So I think it'll be easier to do it with the center. Let's do box.center equals, and this will have to be a CG point. And so you could set the CG point. Why don't we do it this way? We'll just say X, right? And then we can set the X of center. So what we'll do is we'll say view.center.x, right? So now we've positioned the box in the center of the view. So now it should be 0y and in the middle of the screen horizontally, or actually right here, right? And then what we'll do is we'll set the vertical position to place the box off the bottom edge of the screen. So the top, if we're counting y coordinates, 0 is at the top, and then we count larger numbers towards the bottom. So we'll say box.center y equals, and if I do view.bounds.height, that should place the box halfway off the bottom. So I'll have to move it a little bit further, and my box is 100 pixels tall. So if I want to get it exactly off the screen, I got to move it at 50 pixels off the bottom. So I could move a little. I could use a number greater than 50, but if I use a number larger than 50, part of the box will be visible when it starts, right? So let's give it a try and see what it looks like now. Okay, well that looked pretty good, right? What if we add another animation, right? So there's a few things you can do with this, right? You can animate some other stuff. Let's actually animate a couple more properties, and then we'll do another video on some of the other animate options, right? So just for right now, let's talk about the properties that we can animate and why this works. So essentially what we're doing here is we're changing the properties of a view object, and UIView.animate is animating those properties. So it's making the changes that we declare here over this duration. Okay, so let's try another one. What if we said box.background color equals UI color.blue, right? We'll give that a try, right? So we can animate the color. And we can see it changes to blue, right? What if we animate the, let's try something tricky. Let's see, layer dot corner radius equals 50. So the box will, you know, get round as it moves up the screen, right? Can't set the corner radius, right? Layers have their own animation property, and some of the properties you can't animate here, right? Let's try another one. What if we animate, let's think of another, what about the alpha? Now, the alpha is kind of weird because, you know, or not weird, but, you know, if we want the box to fade in as it slides up, right, we've got the alpha property here. And essentially an alpha of 1 is opaque. And if we set it to 1, what's going to happen is it's going to change over time from its current alpha value outside the block to the value that we set here. And so currently, you know, our box has an alpha of 1, right? So, you know, it's already equal to 1. So really there's no change here, even though it would get animated. So in order for us to animate this property, we should preset the alpha to 0, and then we can set the alpha here to 1, and then it'll change, right? It'll have to go from 1 or from 0 to 1 over 2 seconds. We'll give that a test. Oh, there we go, right? So it's animating the alpha, right? So anyway, so that's a quick introduction to UIView Animate. And then you know, I'll make another video and we'll talk about some of the other features there. Okay, so thanks for watching.